From the IMTV Wave Channel 5 studio at Greenville Senior High School, home of the Greenville Green Wave, the Greenville Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library proudly presents Never Stop Serving.
Hello, folks. Welcome back to Never Stop Serving. I'm Samuel Plock, and I'm your host today for Never Stop Serving. This series is sponsored by Greenville High School's Interactive Media class and the Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library. Today, we welcome the Senior Vice Commander of American Legion Post number 668 in Vandalia. He is also active in other service organizations in Vandalia, Ohio. He served as military intelligence in Saigon, Vietnam. So we got a Vietnam veteran with us today. Please welcome Charlie White.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Charlie, please tell us about your origin story, where you grew up, your parents, and your background.
Oh, okay. Well, I was born in Bethesda, Maryland at the Naval Hospital because my father was a career Marine, World War II and after. And from Washington, D.C., because he was a courier at the time that I was born in 1948, we moved to Long Island, Island Park, New York. Actually lived with my grandparents when we moved from Washington, I guess, when I got out of the service. And from there, we ended up in Bloomington, Indiana, because he ended up being an electronics engineer and as his second career. And spent most of my time in Bloomington, Indiana. Went to unsuccessfully Indiana University twice. And from there I ended up going into the Army because at that particular time there was the draft, and since I was not eligible for college any longer, that was my alternative. So I joined the Army. Went through basic training in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. From there, went to AIT, advanced training, at Fort Knox. This is all 1967, I guess. December 67 is when I went into the service. So February of 68, I was at Fort Knox. At that time, the military had some different programs. I actually went into personnel, and one of the strange things from high school was the fact that I took typing as an extra class. Well, it turns out that typing was a blessing in disguise, because the program I was in for advanced training, they allowed you to work on your own speed. And if you could get done unless it was an 8-week course, if you could get done in 4 weeks or less, you got an extra 2 weeks leave. Because I could type, I was able to get out of there in 2 weeks. So it was kind of strange. I had a week of just wandering around Fort Knox because they had no idea what to do with me at the time. And then they sent me home for a couple of weeks. From there, I ended up going to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, my first actual duty station as a company clerk. Again, at that particular unit, it was a training base for artillery. And so I was supposedly taking care of morning reports and all the functions of that particular unit. But to my surprise, when I got there, the first sergeant said, I have these 2 civilian ladies. They do everything. I need you just to do 2 things. Number 1, I want you to pass out the mail each day. learn all you can from these two ladies. As soon as you know how to write up your orders for promotion, I'll sign them. And so it was actually extremely good duty. My other function at that time was I also had to go for Soldier of the Month each month. So you had to learn all sorts of things about the military to be able to answer in front of a board, which was good. It was a little stressful at times.
I can imagine.
Yeah, because you had to do all kinds of weird things. You actually, in your pants to keep everything straight, you actually had to put newspapers in there so the creases stayed exactly the way they were supposed to. Some of the odd things that people don't hear about the military, but it was good experience. I did learn how to type up my own promotion papers, presented them to the first sergeant, he signed them, so he told me, you're going to be destined for Vietnam, so I want to make sure you're going to be on E5 when you get there because life will be so much easier for you. In the meantime, I did get married, had a child, went to Vietnam in November of 1968, went to Bien Hoa, which was a holding area, and normally you were there 1 or 2 days. Turned out I was there 14 days. I thought, wow, they've lost my records. I'm going to be here for my whole year, and all I have to do is get up each morning, eat 3 meals, stay out of trouble, go back to bed. On the 14th day, they called my name, and they said I was going to the 1st MI Battalion ARS, and I kept thinking, what is MI Battalion? And I kept thinking, mechanized infantry. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be on a tank with a typewriter. To my shock, it was a military intelligence unit. I found out later I was actually handpicked for this particular assignment, and they weren't ready for me, so that's why I hung out at Bien Hoa for 14 days. Went to Saigon the night, it was in the evening, riding in the back of a Jeep with a couple of other sergeants, and as we were going through downtown Saigon, in front of us there was a 3/4 ton military truck, and it hit a young lady. She hit the ground. I remember saying, aren't we going to do something? And they said, no, you don't. If you help the individual, then you're responsible for the individual. And I thought, well, this is crazy. What am I getting into? And she was laying on the ground, and I haven't said this to a whole lot of people, but I honestly believe I saw her soul come out of the crack in her skull.
Really?
Saw something white go up. And from there we went on to my unit. And when I got to the unit, it was kind of interesting because there was only 15 of us that were non-commissioned officers, and everybody else was an officer. And then to top it off, we weren't allowed to salute because they didn't want the officers identified. People didn't wear ranks. And basically my job was to take care of officer records. And the unit did several different types of things. They did something called image interpreting, which was kind of interesting. I did get to see that. It was kind of like a prism that you look through, And at the time, it made a black and white flat photograph become 3D. And you could actually see the troop movements. You could see animals. It was rather interesting being able to actually see that.
Was it state of the art at the time?
At the time, yes. We were in the Army. We were attached to the Air Force, so I was fortunate enough to be actually living in a hotel.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt sorry for everybody else who was out in the field, but I didn't have to make up my bed because there was actually a maid that came in and took care of those type of things. When we went to the mess hall, instead of standing in line and having somebody scoop things onto a tray, we actually sat down at a table and a young lady would come over and take our orders. So it was a little different than what was going on out in the field.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that it was a battalion headquarters, every Sunday we had I guess it was a brunch from 9 o'clock in the morning until 3 in the afternoon, where all of the dignitaries from the other branches of the military would come by and participate in our meal. I mean, it was a banquet. It was almost embarrassing. But we would have the South Koreans, the Australians, and of course, commanders from all the other branches of the service were there. So, as far as strange combat type things, fortunately, I really didn't participate in much during Tet of 1969, which turned out to be a lot better than Tet of 1968, which was Saigon pretty much got overrun.
Yeah.
We did have guards, Vietnamese guards, guarding our compound during that time period. During Tet, they weren't allowed to because everybody was supposed to be off the street from 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next morning. So we had to, at that time, participate in guard duty, which was the first time I'd ever done that.
Yeah.
So when my turn came, we had a little concrete guard shack in front of our compound. And one evening at 2 a.m., I was woken up to go out to the guard shack because it was my turn for my 2 hours from 2 to 4. We were kind of relaxed unit. Our weapons were actually locked up in an arms room. So for the first time, I got to meet my M16. I'd been there for 4 months and hadn't been assigned one. Went out to the guard shack. I was allowed to take a portable radio with me, so I actually got to hear the guy that ended up being in Good Morning Vietnam. So,
Really?
Yeah, so he was sitting there, and I'm sitting there with the radio blasting, and I'm just looking out at the world, and there's a big bright moon, and nobody's supposed to be out there. Part of the problem at the time was there were Vietnamese civilians, male, female children, that we were told might have a satchel charge, which they would place by the front gate of the compound and blow it up, and of course everybody else would rush in then. So that was the only thing we were supposed to watch for, make sure there was nobody out there coming for the compound. That particular early morning, I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, to my left, and I've only told this to 3 people, I saw a Vietnamese lady. She was on the other side of the street. She had a little bag with her, and I thought to myself, well, as long as you stay on your side of the street, I'll stay where I'm at and everything will be fine. She walked a little further. She got directly across from me. And I looked and I go, oh brother, what's going on now? She smiled. The moon was that bright, I could actually see her face. And little black teeth because I ate the beetle nuts. And I said, you stay over there. I'm over here. Everything's cool. She started walking towards me. And I thought, oh God. I lifted up my rifle, said, hey, I have a weapon.
Yeah.
Not very militarily like, but I wanted to know that you need to keep your distance. She kept walking over. I actually chambered around. I thought, there's no way on earth I can shoot this person. And I actually aimed the weapon at her. And she got as close to me, actually closer than what the camera is to me at this particular point, smiled, and walked on. And about another 10 minutes, my duty was over and I went to bed.
Wow.
It was kind of a little harrowing. So.
Yeah.
But that was my first half of my year there.
What's an E5 and what's
an
a
E5
beetle
is
nut?
actually, it's a sergeant, but it was a rank. You could either be a sergeant, an E5 sergeant, or an E5 specialist. I was a specialist E5. If I was a combat arms unit, then I would be a regular sergeant. The regular sergeant would have the 3 stripes coming down on the shoulder, where mine had an eagle patch with a little stripe above it. You know.
And what's a beetle nut?
Beetle nut was actually something that actually grew on the trees there. And most of the Vietnamese, I guess it was a nice thing to just kind of chew on.
Yeah.
Because somebody was always walking around chewing one of these things, but it also blackened their teeth. I mean, it was just unbelievable. Almost everybody there had, I mean, I don't have the best teeth, and everybody there was really in bad shape.
How long have you been involved in the American Legion and the VFW?
The VFW, again, going back to my father, he was commander of the VFW in Bloomington for, oh my God, almost all of my growing up that I remember. He was involved one way or the other. And then finally, he got me interested in it, because when I came back from Vietnam, I was kind of like everybody else. I just kind of wanted to forget where I was and what I was doing, and I didn't really want to even talk about it, quite honestly. Yeah. And so when I got out of the Army, I got a job with F.W. Woolworth. So I went through their training program, became a manager. They had sent me from Bloomington, Indiana to Chillicothe, Ohio. From Chillicothe, Ohio, they sent me to Cincinnati. From Cincinnati to Newport, Kentucky. From Newport, Kentucky, they sent me to Ann Arbor, Michigan, where I had my first store in downtown Ann Arbor. And from there, they sent me to my second store, which was in Dayton, Ohio. And at that point, during all of that time, I ended up getting divorced. And I ended up meeting my present wife, 46 years. But she was from Vandalia, and the Woolworth store was in Forest Park Shopping Center, which is close to Vandalia. So anyway, I ended up meeting her, and we ended up getting married. And her brothers, she had 4 brothers, and they were all very involved in the VFW. They all had served in the military of one branch or another. And so anyway, I ended up going there because it was kind of a family thing to do. And so I'm a life member of the VFW. In Vandalia, we also have an AMVETS. I'm a life member of the AMVETS. Now, I'm a regular member of the American Legion. I was a vice commander at the at the VFW back in the actually late 80s. And I've been the vice at the American Legion post now for the last 3 years.
Wow.
So, but it's been fulfilling. We do a lot of good work in the area. We have a tendency to help out as much as we can. We actually donate to each one of the grade schools in the area. I think we have a commitment right now of we actually give $1,000 to 6 different schools every month.
So we understand you, many other American Legion 668 Vandalia and others moved to a prosperous location. Would you like to tell us about it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we had a little difficulty with our one building. We were in a second building that turned out to be really a disappointment, I guess is the best word.
Yeah.
And our present commander decided to take a chance on a building that used to be, actually it was a florist, which is kind of an unusual, strange building because it actually had 3 different greenhouses out back and everything. And we were able to convert this over. And when we opened up the place 4 years, I think it's 4 years ago. Yeah. And I think we had $80 in the bank. And fortunately, we've been growing and we've been doing a lot of good. And we're in a position now, like I said, that we can donate money to all sorts of different causes.
Which is important these days.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Especially with the high price of inflation and all that.
Right. Yeah, well, we've been able to help out quite a bit. We just took a flagpole from one of the schools that had been in Vandalia forever that they tore down, and the flagpole they were going to destroy, and it was a 30-foot flagpole. And we asked the city, and they said we could have the flagpole, so we got it refurbished, and we had a dedication, so where we had the teachers from that particular school and several of the people that had gone to that grade school all came for a ceremony. We did that in November, and we were also able to give
Oh, that's at the bell.
the city of Vandalia a check for $15,000. So, we keep trying to strive to do more and more good. We have veteran members. We have 253 full-time members that are all veterans. We have an auxiliary which has actually 300 and some members. And then we also have the sons. So if you're a son or now a daughter of a military veteran, you can actually join the American Legion. And that group is probably the biggest one that's growing right at the moment.
Yeah.
Over 3 pushing 400. So we have a total of about 700 and some members at our post. Seating for about 75 people.
Yeah. Do you have any special information you'd like to share with our viewers?
As far as special information for
I imagine.
events.
How about events?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, we're constantly having something going on at the post all the time. Coming up on I believe it is the 16th of this month, we will have our children's Christmas party.
Yeah.
So we actually go out and buy presents. We have all the members and some of the people from the city tell us how old their children are, and anybody 12 years or younger, and we'll go out and buy presents. So we actually have Santa Claus show up. That evening we'll have an adult party as well. So, and then of course we have a New Year's Eve party. And then we just recently had one of our members donate a 14-foot trailer to us, an enclosed trailer. So we're having it wrapped actually next week with our logo, everything about the American Legion. And the plans are we're going to be able to go to like the park in Vandalia this spring when they're having baseball and stuff like that. All the baseball teams are playing. I believe the plans are to take some grills, and we'll just make hot dogs and pass them out to people. Stuff like that.
Hard to believe it's December already.
I know.
Well, thank you once again for your awesome
Okay.
service.
All right, thank you.
That was a wonderful story. Thanks.
Okay, super.
Here at Never Stop Serving, we continue to highlight veterans that continue to serve beyond their military service. Please continue to watch for further episodes of Never Stop Serving. We have a full-packed season. Also, continue to watch the Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library Facebook page for upcoming events and updates. If you are a veteran and would like to share your story, please send us an email at gvmpdl@gmail.com. That's gvmpdl@gmail.com. Happy holidays to all and be safe out there. Thank you for watching today's episode. This is Samuel Plock signing off.
The Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library is grateful to our show's sponsors: VFW of Ohio Charities, VFW Post 7262 Greenville, Rodney Oda CPA, VFW Post 7741 Clayton, American Legion Post 707 Englewood, DAV Dark County Chapter 57, VFW Sunday Bingo, Dennis Maloney and Family, VFW Post 5018 Free Pike, Fitzwater Outdoor Maintenance, VFW Post 9582 Vandalia, Robinson Salt Supply, A Clarity Salt Company, VFW Post 657 Riverside. The Veterans Memorial Park and Digital Library is thankful to all our sponsors and humbly asks you to become one too. Next year, our Hee Haw Talent Show 10 will return to our home in Greenville, Ohio, where we will showcase our refurbished park and the hopeful return of the wall that heals. Thank you for watching. Please visit us on our social media sites. Please consider contributing to our mission in some way. Also, we are always looking for veterans and their families to share their stories with us. Be sure to join us next week for our next episode of Never Stop Serving.